and I'll try my best not to put you off to sleep. So we'll be talking about risk-benefit analysis, and I mean, we do it on a daily basis in some way or the other. It's just that we have to develop a scientific template as to how to do it properly. And I hope, whenever we talk about research, and the first thing that comes to us is, risk. But also remember, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. So that should not preclude you from taking up any kind of research. It's just that you need to know as to how to balance the risks and benefits. So in day-to-day living, whenever you come in house, there is a certain level of risk that you accept. There's a risk of road traffic accident that you might have. Or when you're driving a car, there is an accident. That's it's something which is in your control. You are in control of that risk. For example, when you're driving the car, you can drive it slow, and you know that you can negotiate the car. So what is the control that you have over the risk is what makes you accept it easily, isn't it so? The same risk is there when you are driving an aeroplane, but the control is not there, and this lack of control might make you not take that risk. So you might just go towards risk aversion. And when you're not in control of that situation, you want the risk to be better. Isn't it true? If you have control of the situation, where you know that you can control things, you might accept the higher risk. But if you have control of the situation or a circumstance, you would want that risk to be very, very low in order to accept it. That is true for your patients also. They come to you for your care. They are not in control of, making what's the right decision. So they give that autonomy to you, and that's why they expect, the expectation is that the risk they would like to take would be very, very low. So this is regarding probabilities in day-to-day living, and how do you apply it to health. So what is risk-benefit analysis? What is risk? It's the possibility of that any harm might occur. And benefit, as per the Wellness report, is something of positive value related to health or welfare. And our goal as physicians, as doctors, as researchers, is to figure out whether the risk or benefit is most significant. And it's very commonly used in medical practice because each procedure, each treatment has its own sets of risks associated. So you need to balance this risk and benefit, and that's the need for the risk-benefit analysis. Again, risk, you can classify it further. You must have heard from Madam's lecture that it might be mild, moderate, low risk, high risk. There's no ambiguity in this classification because it's again based on the chance and the severity of the harm. So based on the chance of occurring, based on the severity that the harm might cause, the risk is classified as mild, moderate, or severe. Is that clear? Everybody's quiet. So it's the probability and magnitude which is going to determine what is the level of risk that's going to be. So what is the importance of risk benefit assessment? When you talk about clinical research, why do you want to do research? You want to devise a treatment for a disease. So that's the general knowledge. Ultimately, you want to devise a treatment which you can generalize it for routine practice that improves the health and understanding of the disease. But unfortunately, people who participate in clinical research, they are the means for you to acquire this knowledge. And when it is being inducted to your research, this benefits most of the right? So if you have a trial between a drug A versus a drug B, then you do not know which one is better. So the persons who are participating, one may benefit, provided the drug works, other may not benefit. So that is what the statement means. Because there must be a possibility of exploitation, and it's our responsibility that we need to reduce this possibility. So research in humans, it should be initiated. What are the guiding principles? The guiding principles are that it should be initiated only if anticipated. You cannot, put a ballpark figure when you're getting into the research domain. You can just anticipate. Anticipation is based on studies, phase 1, phase 2 studies. So only the anticipated benefits to the subject as well as the society, over the risks that you impose, it's only then that you should carry out that kind of a research protocol. This is a very important rule. And whenever you embark on any research protocol, and the benefits, the result of the private scientific society should be taken into account. See, the benefits, for example, when you're taking into account screening studies, these are this screening studies, they may actually help the individual who is participating in the screening. But it might help the society. What is important, what these studies, whatever the guidelines suggest, that, okay, community benefit is of importance, but the most important thing is to consider benefit to the subject. Okay? And the degree of risk should never be exceed that is determined by the humanity, the importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. You have to take into account the human needs of research as well. When in order to solve the problem, you cannot embark onto inhuman things. And this has happened in the past. And that's when the Nuremberg Code came. Does anybody know these experiments? The inhuman experiments that were carried out? And that led to the generation of these guidelines and code of conduct, etc., the codes and all. So the Nazi experiments. So these experiments were carried out during the World War II, and after the World War II, these were done on people, prisoners of war, in the concentration camps, and most of this kind of research led to death of people. And that's when this Belmont report and the code of conduct for the ethics of research came more and more into being. So this is the October 1947, and experiments, it clearly stated, experiments where there is an invalid reason to believe that death or injury will occur because of the experiment, These are completely forbidden. Is it clear? Will you embark on any such research where you know that it's going to cause death? You will not. These are forbidden experiments. And you have here declaration of Helsinki that the interest of the subject, wherein now you start talking about autonomy of the subject, should always prevail over the interest of the science. And that's when came the concept of what? What did you learn just before this class? The informed consent. And in medical research, human subject considerations related to the well-being of the human subject should take precedence. So these guidelines, they differ a little bit in the emphasis on whether the emphasis is on the subjects or it's on the society. And you have the Belmont report, which clearly gives you the systematic analysis of risks and benefits. It's again based on the Nuremberg Code. And what this report states is that the risks have to be reduced to those necessary to achieve its objectives. It states that whenever you are exposing the person to the risk, you have to look for alternatives. That's one method of reducing the risk, or you have to reduce the risk in whichever way. And the risk benefits which will affect the subject will carry a special weight. Okay, so the benefits which will be imparted to the subject will carry a weight as compared to the benefit to the community. This is what the report says. And then you have federal regulations from the US, where it gives a balanced view that there it states that the benefits might be either both for the individual as well as for the society. So it gives a balanced kind of a view. And again, you have the GCP Guidelines, wherein clearly says that unsound research on human subjects should not be done. And the ICH GCP Guidelines, very commonly followed world over. You have to look into the foreseeable risks, and they should be weighed against the anticipated benefit for the individual trial subject and society. So here again, it is talking about both the subject as well as the society. So there are some guidelines which emphasize the benefits more on the subject, the research participants. There are guidelines which emphasize the benefit both on the subject as well as the society. And the right, safety, and well-being, they are very important considerations, and their rights will always prevail over your interest in science or your thinking of welfare of the society. And that's again, that brings to the concept of informed consent. So what is fundamental guidelines that each of the guideline is talking about the risk and benefit either to the subject or to the society at large. This is what all the guidelines have been talking about. And what guidelines also suggest that these risks that you identify in your research protocol, they should be identified, and there should be a mechanism to reduce these risks. And the benefits to individual participants and society, they should definitely outweigh the risk. No risk, you can embark on a protocol where the risk is like 50 times higher and the benefit is low. No, that's a no for research. So how do we assess the risks and benefits? So what are the components you identify? I said that you have to identify what are these risks and benefits. There are potential risks and potential benefits. What are the types? I'll tell you about the types. There can be different sources of these risks and benefits.
Constant humming coming. Somebody has an audio going. It can't be that you can talk in a monotonous voice level. It's very disrespectful, really disrespectful for the person who's standing there, has made an effort. Even if you don't like it, go to sleep. would be disrespect? Sorry.
So, risks and benefits, not understanding this lecture is also a risk, believe me.
Which they're ready to take.
So, again, is to quantify the magnitude of duration of harms and benefits. You have to quantify the magnitude. What is the magnitude of harm and benefits? And what's the duration? So when you're involved in a risk-benefit analysis, there is no formula on the basis of which you have some inputs and you have some output and this is better, this is worse. You have to get you have a table where you quantify the risk and you quantify the benefits and then the judgment. And the judgment varies depending upon the individuals who are actually involved in this decision making. There is some degree of variance. And so I think you quantify harms and benefits to the research participants. So these are very important components when you're doing the risk-benefit analysis. So what are the 4 categories? I was talking about the different categories of risk. So one is the physical risk, which is very well understood. In research, physical risk is something which is very evident. Psychological risk is something which is very difficult to gauge from a research protocol. It's easy to, gauge this risk in like vulnerable population or sensitive population like HIV positive individuals. You are doing some research there. There it is easy to gauge. But otherwise, it's sometimes difficult to gauge the psychological harms. For example, BRCA mutation. You want to do incidence of BRCA mutation in triple-negative breast cancer. So it's okay, you do the research, but that has implications. That has implications not only on the person, but also on the family, which can have psychological consequences. So that's something difficult to gauge. There can be social risks. There can be employment or social discrimination based on the output of your research, right? And there can be economic risks. And the economic risks are largely imposed onto the participants. Madam just mentioned that if you have a study wherein the routine standard of care is to call the patient on a 3-monthly basis, and you have a protocol wherein you call the patient on a monthly basis, don't you think it will impose financial risk on the patient to travel? And if you are not reimbursing the travel, is it a financial risk or not? Yes. So those are the kind of risks that you need to be aware of when you are designing your protocol. So once you have identified the risk, it can be either due to the research intervention or infrastructure, and it can be so the indirect risk might be like time away from family, work, risk of travel to site. These are the indirect risks. And direct risk, of course, the physical harm or the incidence of side effects, those are the direct risks. We need to quantify the magnitude and the duration of the risk. Either it is major or minor harm, either it is to the individual or to the society. And what are the benefits? So for the individual, the benefits could be either in the disease status. That's the most common benefit you would look for when you're embarking on research. There's also some psychological benefit, and this is what Madam was saying, that most of your patients would agree to participate in your protocol because they want to be close to the physician. So those are the kind of psychological benefits. And some kind of algorithm is also there. When you're writing the PID, then it might not benefit you, it might benefit the society. So some of them might just, participate in the research protocol because they feel that, okay, they are helping the society. So those are the kind of psychological benefits that an individual may have. There will be economic benefits as well. For example, I deal with cancer, and a lot of cancer drugs are very expensive, but many of them would like to participate in a trial so that they get the drug free of cost. So those are the kind of financial implications which could be there. And for the society, the benefit could be that you, of course, once you do the research, you find that it is beneficial, you have effective interventions for the society at large, because ultimately it's something that you want it to be generalizable. That's what the motto of research is. And of course, it can change practice. And of course, if depending upon the kind of research that you embark on, it might decrease morbidity or mortality. So those are the kind of benefits that you offer to the society. So what benefits should count, direct or indirect? So the direct benefits from the research itself, because of the intervention itself, you have benefits to the patient. That's something direct. It could help the research infrastructure. For example, I'm a radiation oncologist, and we were embarking on a trial where we are testing 3 weeks versus 1 week course of radiation. And when we are, like, instead of 3 weeks, you want to give the dose of radiation in 1 week. So how does it help the infrastructure? So before embarking on the trial, we have to be very, very sure about the quality assurance of delivery of such kind of radiation. And when we are improvising the quality assurance, you don't do it only for your patients. It also affects those patients who are not being treated in trial. Okay, so it tends to standardize the practice for those patients also, and indirectly it might benefit them also. When you are not participating in that trial, because your infrastructure, you have improved the infrastructure in an indirect way by embarking onto research. And when we benefits, we don't go into these indirect benefits. That, okay, your infrastructure is going to improve, that's why you want to do research. It's mainly that the direct benefits are counted. Remember that. You might quote it that there might be indirect benefits, but when we are doing the analysis in an ethical committee, it's mainly the direct benefits that count the most. Something as researchers, you should keep in mind that there are indirect benefits as well. So, and benefit related to the period of the trial. So, of course, the research participants during the conduct of the study, they obviously will be benefited depending on what kind of research you're doing. They may or may not be benefited. And ultimately, it translates into the benefit of the community. And a lot of studies, especially this public health research, like screening studies, when they're embarking on some kind of a screening study, they also seek community participation. So before they embark in a study, they go out to the community, they ask the community as to what are the problems, and they try to incorporate that into their research design. And for example, you're going to do a screening study in breast cancer, you first go out to the community, you first spread awareness about the cancer, and then you see what the problems are, whether it is worthwhile or not, and come back and design a study. Now, in this process of designing a study, indirectly, before starting on the protocol and by community engagement, you have helped the community. You have made them aware of cancer. You have also understood as to what the problems are. So these are the indirect benefits which might be related to your trial period. Of risks and benefits. So you have to quantify the magnitude of harm and benefits. It could be either in the form of a simple organ dysfunction, which is simple or is it severe? Organ dysfunction is simple or severe? You give a drug and that causes renal failure. Is it simple or is it severe? Why are you so quiet? It's very commonsensical. It's no rocket science, it's very commonsensical. It's severe. So that's how you gauge the magnitude. Or slight discomfort. For example, you're drawing blood. Is the magnitude of harm severe or is it very less? Yes. Now, the potential benefit when we are doing trials in cancer research, it could be either curing the cancer altogether. You have such a marvelous drug which cures the cancer altogether, or it's just causing a tumor to stay stable, not grow. So that's the magnitude. That's a benefit. But the magnitude is different. For something you're able to cure, is the magnitude higher or lower? Higher. If a drug which is just causing a shrinkage or a stability of the tumor, the magnitude of benefit is lower. So that's how you gauge what's the magnitude of benefit, what's the magnitude of risk, and the formulation as well. Is it a one-time harm? You give a drug, the patient develops a reaction, it's a one-time harm. Or, for example, you give letrozole, which is a aromatase inhibitor used in breast cancer, and it causes fatigue. So it causes long-term fatigue, or it's a harm for a prolonged period. So that's what is meant by magnitude and duration of the risks and benefits. The how to reduce risk and enhance benefit. The most important thing is that your research protocol should be based on a sound scientific rationale and the design. And that design and scientific rationale will depend upon how extensively you have done your background research. And the second thing is, of course, you have to do your research consistent with the clinical practice. You have to substitute procedures with the less risky ones. Qualified persons. That's also one way of reducing risk. We were embarking on a study of pre-op chemoradiation in stomach cancers. And nobody does it in this country, and we were very skeptical. But our surgeon had been only doing chemoradiation for the surgery in each of the two cancers. So we have personal already in hand. That would certainly reduce the risk of such kind of research. Monitoring has a very, very important role. You have data safety and monitoring boards. And that is, at least in drug trials, you have to monitor adverse effects. Are you aware? Are you not aware? You have to monitor the adverse effects, and there are stopping rules. So you are very strict about the adverse effects. And if that exceeds a certain limit, there are stopping rules. You have to stop the trial altogether. And there is a monitoring board which does these kind of monitoring. So that's one mechanism of reducing the risk. And of course, you need to exclude the subjects who are susceptible to very high risk. And data safety is also very important. I see most of the residents, you have your name, and the privacy is not respected. You keep the data with their names, their identifiers. So ideally, the identifiers when you're storing your data on a public domain, computer and all, they should be removed. They should be coded in a certain way. Because by that you're revealing the identity of the person. And when you're taking the consent of the patient, you always write down that your identity is not going to be revealed. For example, you did some research over here, you kept all these identifiers, and you're sharing it somewhere out in an outside institute in a multicentric setting. You need to remove these identifiers. The personal information cannot be sent. So I'll just take you through an example. So in this analysis, you identify the potential benefits and risks. You brainstorm with the research team, you do review of literature, there might be community engagement. And when you do evaluation, you identify the probability of benefits and harms, you identify the magnitude of benefit and harm, you evaluate the benefit, there is a balance between risk and benefit. You select all patients' preferences, you do a review of literature and community engagement. This is a benefit and risk evaluation that you carry out. And research can be allowed only when there is a minimal individual risk and substantial benefit to the committee. Those are the kind of research you will allow. Research cannot be allowed when the risk is present to the individual, but the benefits are completely unclear. If you come up with such kind of research, you need to gauge as to what is the benefit of such kind of research. And there are risks which are imposed on the participants. We would be very skeptical in approving this kind of research. And a very careful scrutiny, the research, the ethics team very carefully scrutinizes research when the individual benefits they are present, but they slightly outweigh the risks. And the benefits might not be to the individuals per se, but it is to the community at large. So these are the kind of research which are very carefully scrutinized. So let's take an example. People can stop sleeping. So let's do a study to compare efficacy of anti-diabetic drug and metformin in patients with type 2 diabetes. So let's do a risk analysis. So the new drug has the following adverse effects. It causes severe hypoglycemia effects in the short term, but it causes pancreatic cancer in the long term. So this is a risk analysis of the drug. Yeah. So let's look at the benefit of this drug. So what is the benefit of the drug? That the reason that you want to use it is that it's once a day that you need to give it, metformin needs to give twice a day. It's long acting. The compliance of the patient to the drug is good. It is required in small doses. It is easy to consume. It is low cost as well. And glycemic control. So this is a benefit of the new drug, right? Good. And the benefit besides cardiac control is also offers some degree of cardiac protection. That's one benefit. This is a benefit of the drug. You have been using this drug for ages. So that's the benefit of this drug. Now let's go to evaluation. And here comes the concept of probability of risks and the magnitude of harm. So the probability of risk is that the new drug will cause severe hypoglycemia 1 in 1,000. And for where this hypoglycemia is there, it can lead to death as well. That's the risk evaluation. Okay. And of course, pancreatic cancer, it can cause 1 in 40,000. We're looking at the probabilities now. And then cancer, it's a very morbid disease. It is that. So the morbidity of cancer is high. So that's the evaluation for the new drug. And for metformin, because of the hypoglycemia, that causes the incidence is 1 in 1. So the new is more likely to cause hypoglycemia as compared to that of metformin. Clear? And hypoglycemia in metformin is reversible, it's never fatal. There it was fatal. Here it is never fatal. And lactobacillosis, yes, it's a side effect of metformin, all of us know, but it is generally not fatal. So what's your evaluation of risk and benefit? Would you approve or not approve? Please approve. Who wants to use this new drug? Who doesn't want to use this drug? And there's somebody who is not raising hands. They want to do this as well. This drug. So then we see that, and after this, who wants to use this drug? The benefit is that the new drug causes a greater chance of infection HbA1c, the glycemic control within a month. And the confidence is very good, 80%. The confidence is 15%. And the confidence is 5% reduction. The confidence is 65%. It's a less compliance. And the confidence is 1 rupee. Now, which wants to use the new drug? You want to use the new drug. Rest all of them, they don't want to use the new drug. Any reason why? Any one of you? So this is how you risk-benefit analysis evaluation. Probability, magnitude of harm, duration of harm, that's how we take into account. We tabulate it. Yes, please. You don't want to use the drug. The front row. Why you don't want to use the drug, the new drug? What is the risk? It has benefit. It's causing no reduction in. So yes, you're right. Hypoglycemia is a serious adverse event, and it's 100 times more common with the new drug that you want to give. Although the benefit of the drug is that it causes better glycemic control and a better compliance and a lower cost, but the risks clearly outweigh the benefits. So that's why you would not like to embark, or the research committee, the ethics committee would, not the research committee, the ethics committee would gauge this research in this way and would certainly query the research as to, why do you want to go for a risky protocol. So there is another interesting study. There is a herpes simplex virus 2 carrier in a healthy women and reproductive age group. You just want to assess that in healthy women in the reproductive age group, you want to do this viral. It is a simple study, no risks involved. So let's look at the benefits, the risk analysis. It's a sensitive study, which is it a sensitive study? Yes, because it involves exploration of women's sexuality. And if the person is detected to have this, why does there have the potential for stigmatization, right? There may be a risk of marital disharmony if the patient's partner is notified that your, partner has been diagnosed with this. You also screen yourself. There might be disharmony. What did you get? From where did you get? Imagine, this is a very simple study, the way you quote it. Just assessing the carrier status. But these are the risks. There might be a risk of domestic violence. And this is true. I'm not over-exaggerating things. This is something that should be in your mind when you're embarking even simplistic research like this. But there is benefit. You will do epidemiological analysis. It's a community benefit. What's the incidence of this? And you detect it, so you will be able to prevent therapy by taking precautions and not going on to vaginal delivery. It's actually the benefit of living the state. So, what is the risk evaluation? That is the risk and benefit, not only with the evaluation. Generally, the benefit of the community is very high. It's 40%. And when we belong to low socioeconomic strata, they have a very high risk of domestic violence. You do sense in them, they might be exposed to a much higher risk of domestic violence. So the risk might actually outweigh the benefits that you might be thinking of. What's the benefit? The incidence of herpes is very low. It's about 1 in 1 lakh. It's even more in carriers. And because of that you can eradicate herpes simplex virus. The benefit is not very much in even identifying this. The benefits to the community, yes, you get epidemiological evidence as to what's the incidence of this virus, titers, etc. Is it beneficial? No. Is yes, there might be a potential responsibility that okay, this community has high risks of this virus disease. Risk of the infection, yes, there might be a case for tuberculosis. Definitely, the risk outweigh the benefits. So this is how you embark on risk-benefit analysis, and this is actually done by ethical committees whenever we are looking into your research protocols. So even when in the research protocol, you can use the form. What are anticipated risks, what are anticipated harms, and that will help you engaging whether or not to embark on this research, number one. Number two, what are the methods by which you can minimize the risk of harm? Okay. And this is classification of risk by the ICMI. So you have different classification strata. You have mechanism if the probability of harm is nil or not expected, like for example, anonymous data that we were talking about, public domain data. This is low and minimal risk. And in instances where the probability of harm is not greater than the probability encountered in routine daily activities. This came as a surprise to me as well. The drawing of blood samples is not minimal risk. It is minor risk or minimal risk or low risk. And of course, you have other procedures, the interventions that you do, they are more than autograph trials. They are more than minimal risk or high risk. So you balance between the value of the research that you do and the risk and benefits that are imposed by the research. And there's always a tension in your first to gaining knowledge and to risky research. Increase the risk of research. For your research exercise, imposes risks. In exercises, it is unlikely to generate important information. So, how to balance that? What are the risks and benefits? What's the scientific value you're adding? So, every research, it has its own benefits and risks. And there is always an inherent uncertainty about the degree of risks and benefits. Despite importance, assessment is always very difficult. All of us struggle a lot when we are doing this risk-benefit analysis. And you have to look into the probability based on your literature search that you have and the magnitude. And of course, the patient's preparation, the people's preferences and perceptions, mainly the participants' preferences and perceptions should also be taken into account when you're doing this kind of risk-benefit assessment. These are some recommended readings, the ICMR guidelines, which are available freely on the web. I would urge you that whenever you are, not having too much of work, you can go through these guidelines. It will help you, become a good researcher. Thank you. Happy to take questions.